All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, What's in a Health Coach's Kitchen? Before I pass it over to Katie Jo, just a couple items to take care of. We will hopefully have time for questions at the end of the presentation, and you can type those into the question box in the lower portion of your control panel. We will also be posting a recording of the webinar online, but if you would like a copy of the presentation in PDF format, or if your question does not get answered, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. So, all right, I will turn it over to Katie Jo to get things started.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shelby. So today our March webinar is What's in a Health Coach's Kitchen. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about some different tools, ingredients, and recipes that we, as Health Tech 360 health coaches, actually keep in our kitchen. So I came up with the idea for this webinar last fall when we gave our favorite fall food webinar, which if you have not yet seen, I would encourage you to go onto our blog and check it out. It was a great webinar. Everyone had so much fun exploring different ideas regarding healthy recipes. I thought it would be great to devote an entire webinar to discussing what we as health coaches actually use in the kitchen. Also, unfortunately, on our coaching calls, we tend to kind of spend a lot of time talking about what not to eat, where we really want to emphasize what to eat and give you different ideas of how to incorporate those healthful foods into your day-to-day life. So today we'll be discussing some key staples and go-tos that we actually keep in our kitchens, talk about the tools that we use, ingredients we keep on hand, and recipes that we use often. And just a note before we get started, don't worry, you absolutely don't need to be a master chef to be able to eat well. I think that if anyone is a good example of that, it's me. Very basic. So let's go ahead and get started. So we'll start with some different tools that we like to keep in the kitchen. First off, having some knives and cutting boards, of course, at home is really helpful in cooking healthful meals. Also, a food processor can be great for making prep work easier and more convenient. Rather than chopping up a pepper and onion by hand with a knife, you simply throw it in and let it do the work for you. And it doesn't need to be anything fancy. A small, simple one works great. A blender, of course, is a great tool for whipping up a smoothie. They can also be helpful in making homemade dressings or sauces, which we'll touch on later in the webinar. Pictured on this slide is a spiralizer, which is used to make noodles out of whatever you put through it. So you could use a zucchini, sweet potatoes, even beets. There are different types out there, and again, it doesn't need to be anything fancy or expensive. You can pick one of these up for as little as $10. So they are a great tool to have. And then lastly on this slide is one of my favorite, crock pot. And also liners for the crock pot. With a crock pot, of course, you can just simply throw some ingredients in the morning, leave it on low as you're gone, come home to a home-cooked meal. And if you are using the liners, the cleanup is just as simple as it was to make the meal. One more slide here on tools that we like to use. Pictured on this slide is a garlic press. Something that we will discuss here in a few minutes is flavoring your whole food recipes with different fresh herbs and spices. Crushed garlic is not only great for adding flavor to your meals, but also adds many health benefits due to the compound allicin. So to maximize those health benefits of this enzyme, you actually want to crush your garlic and allow it to sit at room temperature for 10 to 15 minutes before cooking with it. Same thing with the garlic press. This is another tool where it comes in several different forms, but it's pretty simple, doesn't need to be anything fancy. Next up, food storage containers and baggies. So reusable food storage containers and baggies. These help to make food prep for the week much easier. Mason jars, same kind of thing. We like to use these for several different recipes, which again we will get to later in the webinar. And there are various benefits to using these glass containers over plastic, including that glass does seem to be safer than the plastic, and the glass will not absorb smells or taste. Honestly, I usually just save the glass jars that I purchase my peanut butter in. So that makes things pretty easy. Next up, a water filtration pitcher. As I think we all know, getting enough water is very important, and when you can keep clean, cold water at your fingertips, that makes it more convenient to drink. Making it even more convenient to drink is if you do have some stainless steel or maybe some glass water bottles at home so that you can keep that clean, cold water with you. So that wraps things up for the tools. Now we will move on to ingredients. So we'll be discussing what some of our staple ingredients are. These would be ingredients that we always keep in the kitchen regardless of what's on the meal plan for the week. So first, coconut and olive oil. Coconut oil is great for cooking at higher temperatures, where olive oil is better for more your things at room temperature, like your salad dressings. Both of these oils contain healthy fats and can actually help to improve your cholesterol levels. Next ingredient listed there, old-fashioned or steel-cut oats. Oatmeal can be great for improving cholesterol levels as well due to the high fiber content. It is recommended that you do stick with the old-fashioned or the steel-cut oats rather than the instant. Steel-cut and old-fashioned oats are more whole forms of the oats, so they're going to have more of that fiber. And typically, they're not going to have the added sugars and the added bad fats that might come a lot of times with the instant oatmeal. So steel cut is actually your most ideal option. That would be the most whole form of the oat, but old-fashioned oats can be a great choice as well. And regarding which one you choose, it really just kind of comes down to a matter of personal preference on consistency. They're going to have a little bit different consistency. So moving on, eggs is the next ingredient on the list. Some of you might be surprised to see eggs here. You might be thinking, whoa, wait a minute, I thought eggs were bad for cholesterol, which was once believed. However, we now know that eggs are actually a really nutritious choice and that they don't have a big impact on our blood cholesterol levels. I always keep hard-boiled eggs in the fridge to snack on in between meals if needed. Easy to eat plain, or you can mix it up by adding salt and pepper, hummus, salsa, guacamole, mustard, or even hot sauce. So different ways to mix it up and kind of keep things fresh with those hard-boiled eggs. Natural nut butter is next on the list. So this could be almond butter, peanut butter, or even cashew butter. Natural nut butter should contain nothing but the ground nut and maybe a pinch of salt. If you're not getting natural nut butter, it's likely that there's sugar and hydrogenated oil added to the nut butter, which are ingredients that ideally we do want to keep limited as far as our health is concerned. And the last ingredient on this slide is a give me, right? Of course, we all keep tons of fresh and frozen fruits and vegetables around. Know that frozen produce is often just as nutritious and just as tasty as fresh, and it's usually less expensive, and of course, it's a great option for those colder weather months when those more fresh fruits and veggies aren't as readily available. One more slide here on ingredients before we get into the fun stuff, the recipes. So if you have completed a coaching call with any of our health coaches, it's likely that you were given the recommendation to eat more lean protein. Serving lean protein is a great thing to base a meal around. You can basically just add some veggies and be good to go. So some good examples include wild-caught fish, low-sodium chicken, and grass-fed beef. Of course, there are different options out there as well. Turkey would be another one. Those are just some examples. Next, chia seeds. I like to think of chia seeds as versatile little nutrition bombs. These tiny seeds can be used in so many different ways. They're a great source of fiber, healthy fats, and protein. They are a main ingredient in one of the recipes we're about to discuss, so we'll be talking more about them in just a second here. And you can also add them to really just about anything that you can think of. Oatmeal, salads, smoothies, whatever else that you might think of. Next, plain Greek yogurt, another versatile ingredient that can be used not just as yogurt to snack on, but can also be a great alternative to sour cream. Can be added to smoothies to increase the protein content, and can be used as a base for different dips. Greek yogurt has twice the protein as regular yogurt, which is why we recommend Greek specifically. And we do suggest buying it plain as a way to cut back on your sugar consumption. A lot of the Greek yogurts out there that are already flavored can tend to have quite a bit of sugar or artificial sweeteners added to them. So if you buy it plain, you could still flavor it on your own, but then you have control over what you're adding. You can flavor it with different things like cinnamon, vanilla or almond extract, maybe even nut butters, cocoa powder, maybe a little bit of honey, shredded coconut, anything like that that you can think of. Next up, this is definitely a go-to snack of mine, is mixed nuts. So when we talk about nuts, do keep in mind that peanuts are actually a legume, not a nut. But anything else that comes to mind, so almonds, pistachios, cashews, walnuts, macadamias, anything that you think of are great. We do recommend buying them raw and unsalted, but if you prefer, if you like the taste of them roasted and salted, that would be something that you could do on your own. And again, that way you have control over the type of oil that's used and how much salt that you add. A lot of times when you buy nuts that are already roasted, they're typically roasted in an oil that's not so great for us. I do think that it's also worth pointing out here that walnuts can be a great healthy snack. They are a food that can be easy to overconsume. The serving size for nuts is typically 1 ounce. So that's just a good idea to be mindful of, and be thinking about that if you are snacking on those mixed nuts. Moving on, next thing on the list here is actually a list in itself. So most of us have heard, maybe some of us have even said out loud before, that eating healthy is boring, bland, and doesn't taste good. But that doesn't have to be the case. We hope to show you that today. There are plenty of ways to give good, healthy, whole foods great flavor, but still keep it a healthy choice. So by using fresh herbs and spices, different types of mustard. Mustard's a great condiment. Some different types of hot sauce. That would be some different examples of how you can keep things tasting good. Lastly, when a glass of regular water just doesn't cut it, a soda water can be a great option. You might also know this as club soda or seltzer water. Basically, it's just carbonated water with some natural flavoring added. Again, this might be a good thing to kind of keep an eye out on the ingredient list so that you can be sure that you are getting just a carbonated water with natural flavors. There are some different brands and different flavors out there that you might actually flavor with added sugar or artificial sweeteners. And again, those are the ingredients that ideally we want to try to keep limited. So that covers our tools, that covers our ingredients. Now we'll be moving on to the fun part. We're going to move into recipes here. So we're going to start with breakfast recipes. Let me say as well before we get started that we will be posting a document with all the detailed instructions for each recipe when we post this vlog to the webinar. So don't worry about getting the step-by-step instructions here. You will have access to those once we have the webinar posted. So for breakfast recipes, breakfast tends to be a hard meal for a lot of people. Typically things in the morning, especially during the work week, are a little bit rushed and maybe a little bit hectic. But if we get creative, there are plenty of nutritious options that can be convenient. So our first recipe is overnight oats. This one is definitely a favorite in my household. So basically what you'll do with this is at night you'll combine, you could use either yogurt or milk, combine it with old-fashioned oats, along with anything else that you might want to flavor it with. So maybe different fruits, cinnamon, vanilla, etc. I typically throw in either some frozen berries or a sliced banana, definitely lots of cinnamon, maybe a little bit of vanilla extract. You want to mix this together, make sure that the mixture is an airtight container, and leave it in the fridge overnight. Throughout the night, the oats absorb the liquid, and they're ready to be eaten right away in the morning. So you can just eat them cold, or you can eat them in the microwave. So you can really personalize these here with using different things, and you can also use a different ratio of oats to liquid to make them either kind of more runny or more clumpy, I guess you might say. So just kind of a matter of trial and error there to play around and figure out what ratio that you prefer. With this recipe, I really like to use plain Greek yogurt because it adds a great source of protein to the recipe. A lot of times I'll add chia seeds to it as well to help to add to that pudding, or excuse me, to that protein. Speaking of chia seeds, speaking of pudding, that is our next recipe on our breakfast list, is chia seed pudding. So this one, same sort of concept as the overnight oats, but even more simple. With this, you just mix 2 tablespoons of chia seeds with a ½ cup of milk. You can use any sort of milk. My personal preference is to use coconut or almond milk. And again, you can add other things to enhance the flavor if you'd like. Same sort of things, maybe cinnamon, vanilla, or almond extract, different fruit. You're going to stir everything up to mix it well. Leave it in that airtight container in the fridge for at least a few hours, or if you're having it for breakfast, overnight. Kind of a different point there. This can be a great snack as well. Not just a good breakfast recipe, but great for any time of the day, really. So while it's in the fridge, the seeds are going to absorb some of the milk to make a pudding-like consistency. Chia seeds are absorbent. They will absorb liquid if you put them in a smoothie or in milk, yogurt, etc. You could top this with maybe some fresh fruit or maybe even homemade granola. Next up, pancakes. This might be another thing that you were surprised to see here on the webinar, but as maybe you've guessed, we're not just talking about any sort of pancake here. This is one of my favorite recipes. So with these pancakes, they're made using a batter that consists of 5 ounces plain Greek yogurt, 1 egg, ½ cup old-fashioned oats, a ½ teaspoon of baking powder, and a ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract, and half of a medium ripe banana. You just throw all of those ingredients in a blender, to whip it up, and then that's your batter. And you obviously will just fry that up in a hot pan, maybe with some hot coconut oil. So this is a great recipe to make ahead on the weekend. You can have the pancakes all made, stored in the fridge, ready to go for the week. Or another option is to make the batter ahead of time and keep the batter itself in the fridge and then fry up your pancakes when you're ready for them. I like to top these pancakes with some nut butter and a touch of pure maple syrup. Really great. A smoothie, of course, can be a great option for breakfast as well. This is another recipe that can be a great breakfast option or maybe a snack, or really great for just about any time of the day. But definitely great for breakfast if it's, you're looking for something that's grab and go. You can take this with you and drink it on your way to work. And another one where you can really make it individualized. You can throw just about whatever you prefer in your smoothie. When I make mine, I usually add plain Greek yogurt, frozen berries, or maybe a frozen banana, old-fashioned oats. I like to add some milled flaxseed and some spinach. Maybe throw some chia seeds in there as well. So whatever you do add, I would encourage you to think about trying to get some sort of protein in that smoothie. So again, the plain Greek yogurt can be a good option, chia seeds, milled flaxseed. Maybe you have a good high-quality protein powder that you like that you can throw in. And then finally, eggs. So as I had mentioned before, eggs are a great nutritious food to include in your diet. And there are several ways that you can make them convenient for breakfast. You can keep hard-boiled eggs in the fridge. Hard-boiled eggs, you can actually bake in the oven to hard-boil them. Something, kind of a little tip that I like to do. I just find it to be a little bit more convenient versus boiling them and then putting them in cold water. So I'll just place eggs in a muffin tin just so that they don't roll around. And then you bake them in the oven at about 325 degrees for about 25 minutes. Take them out, let them cool, and you have hard-boiled eggs. Next up, egg muffins. To make these, you can crack a few eggs in a bowl. You can add in any type of veggie, maybe some cheese, maybe even a breakfast meat, maybe some hot sauce, cracked pepper, whatever you prefer. Whip it up, and then you're going to pour that combination into a muffin tin and bake those in the oven. Then you have little egg muffins that are ready to go. You can obviously quickly grab those and eat them on your way out the door. Or if you prefer, rather than pouring those into a muffin tin, you could just pour them into a regular casserole dish and bake that in the oven. And then you have a casserole that's ready for the week. Or lastly, you can crack an egg or two in half of a bell pepper or in a portobello mushroom cap. And with those, you could either bake them in the oven, or you could also make those right on your stovetop, frying it in some hot coconut oil. So those are our breakfast recipes. Now we'll move into some main meal recipes, lunch and dinner. I'm going to start with mason jar salads. So using those mason jars that we talked about on our favorite tools list. These are great because if you layer them correctly, you can prep them on the weekend and have them to eat throughout the whole week. And of course, getting your veggies in is a whole lot easier to do when you have yummy, fresh salads ready to go. You're going to do all the prep work at once for all of your salads for the week, so that makes them convenient as well. And of course, again, you can get creative. You can use all different types of ingredients here. But the idea is, first, you're going to want to put your dressing in the bottom of the jar before you add anything else. Next, you'll add any hard vegetables, ones that aren't very absorbent, and then your softer veggies, or maybe your fruits. Next would be adding in any sort of protein, and then you'll add the greens last. So again, it's that order that's important in making sure that your salads don't get soggy, being able to prep them for the week at once. So when you're ready to eat, you can just shake the jar up or pour it into a bowl to mix it up. To make this an even better option, skip the store-bought dressing by making your own, which is a lot simpler than it sounds. That might sound a little bit intimidating, but it can be super simple. Just by using olive oil as your base and adding different types of vinegar, mustard, spices, or even pureed fruit. So for example, I usually keep things really simple by just mixing some olive oil with balsamic vinegar, a little bit of ground pepper. Sometimes I might add some minced garlic or some lemon juice, but different combinations there. And again, just kind of a matter of trial and error as far as the ratios to find what your personal taste preference is. Our next recipe comes from Coach Cassie, Cassie's Taco Bake. So to make this taco bake, you will brown a pound of ground turkey, or whatever type of meat that you'd prefer, and drain it. Then you're going to add that meat as well as a can of diced tomatoes and taco seasoning back into the pan to simmer. You'll add a cup of cooked quinoa and a bag of Mexican-style vegetables. And mix everything really well and then pour it into a baking dish. You can sprinkle some Mexican-style cheese on top if you'd like, and bake in the oven at 375 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes. When you're ready to eat, you can top it with plain Greek yogurt or sour cream, salsa, and or guacamole. Next up, Greek yogurt chicken. This is one of my favorites and definitely a great example of taking a plain chicken breast and making it really tasty, but it's still healthy. So it's very simple, but very yummy, very satisfying. A lot of protein in this recipe. So basically all you do is mix plain Greek yogurt with Parmesan cheese, Italian seasoning, and some garlic powder. You're going to spread that mixture over some skinless chicken breast and bake in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes or so. Really good. Next up is one of Coach Shauna's favorites, Shauna's Crock Pot Salsa Chicken. So you want to grab your crock pot, throw in a liner if you choose to use one. Then you're going to add chicken, black beans, taco seasoning, corn, peppers, onions, whatever veggies you prefer, and some salsa. You leave this in the crock pot on low for 8 hours. And then you can use this chicken in a variety of ways throughout the week. For example, you could put it on top of a salad, maybe into one of those mason jar salads that you're prepping. You could eat it on a bed of quinoa, make a burrito or a taco, or even just eat it plain. It's great topped with more salsa, sour cream, or plain Greek yogurt, and or guacamole. And our last recipe, tuna cakes. I love these because they make tuna a little bit more exciting than it typically is, but it's still a really simple way to eat it. So basically, you'll get some canned wild-caught tuna, an egg, and then any veggies or seasonings that you might like. Mix everything in a bowl. So for example, I will usually add some chopped greens, chopped spinach, maybe some chopped bell peppers, whatever kind of spice I'm feeling like that day. You're going to mix it all up, and then you use that combination to shape some patties, which you could bake in the oven, or again, you can fry it in a pan of hot coconut oil right on the stove top. Those go great with some roasted veggies or some homemade sweet potato fries. So speaking of veggies, we've got one last category here. Yes, we devoted an entire category just to vegetables because, of course, they are such an important thing to include in our diets. And as I had mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we might know that we should be eating more of them, but maybe not know exactly how to eat more of them. So there are many ways to add veggies to your diet. So here are some of our favorites. Roasted vegetables is definitely a favorite. I had asked the other coaches what their favorite way to prepare vegetables was, and almost everyone said roasted. So you simply toss any sort of vegetable with some coconut oil, maybe some salt and pepper, any seasonings of your choice, and roast in the oven until crisp on the outside. Different veggies will need different roasting times, but just keep an eye on them. You want to make sure they don't burn, obviously. Just roast them until they're crisp on the outside. My favorites include roasting red onions, sweet potatoes, and broccoli together. I also love roasting up some Brussels sprouts and red cabbage. Coach Jeff likes to make a meal out of roasted vegetables by simply adding a fried egg or two on top, along with some salsa and full-fat sour cream. Next, I'm wrapping veggies in aluminum foil or adding them to a veggie basket and grilling. You can steam veggies in the microwave or on the stovetop. You can pull out that blender or food processor to puree some veggies and add to different recipes. For example, I really like to puree mushrooms and onions and add them to the meat when I'm making burger patties. Or you can keep it simple and just add diced veggies to your meal. Coach Shelby loves to add diced peppers and onions to her scrambled eggs, which she said even gets her 2 little kids eating their vegetables. You could add to a smoothie. Spinach is great for this because you consume all the benefits of the super green, but when you add spinach to a smoothie, it does not impact the taste of the smoothie whatsoever. Another example, Coach Trent really likes to add beet to his smoothies. Beets are really great anti-inflammatory food, so that's great for like a post-workout session. Next up, ratatouille or soups and stews. This is Coach Lindsay's favorite way to eat her vegetables. It's a great option for the colder weather. And then lastly, of course, bulking up your salads with as many different vegetables as you can think of. So for example, onions, carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, snap peas, mushrooms, tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, bell peppers, etc., anything that you can think of. So moving into our last 2 recipes for the day. First we have portobello or eggplant pizzas. As you can see, we have portobello pizzas pictured on the slide. Basically, you're just going to use either the cap of a portobello mushroom or you're going to slice an eggplant and use eggplant rounds as the crust for the pizza. You add your sauce, you add more veggies, maybe some cheese, and bake them and use those as a great pizza alternative. And then our last recipe for the day is a Greek zoodle salad. This is where that spiralizer we discussed earlier comes in handy. So you use the spiralizer to turn a zucchini into zoodles, zucchini noodles, which really can be used as a replacement for regular noodles in any recipe. They're a great alternative, much lower in carbohydrates. An entire medium zucchini contains 6 grams of carbs compared to a cup of cooked whole wheat spaghetti contains 43. So it's a really big swap. So for this particular recipe, after you've turned the zucchini into zoodles, you'll just add some diced green peppers, olives, grape tomatoes, red onion, fresh lemon juice, feta cheese, pepper, and oregano. Really great. So again, we will be posting a document to the blog that will include step-by-step directions for all the recipes discussed today. So I realize it is 12:30. We're just about to wrap up here. Moving into just a quick summary to kind of take a step back and summarize what we've discussed today. Some quick kind of overall guidelines and tips include to stock up on whole foods. It's really one of the best things that you can do is keep whole foods in the house and base your meals and your snacks around them. Another great tip is to plan and prep as much as you can to help make those healthy choices convenient. And lastly, have fun with this. Don't be afraid to try some new different recipes or new different ways of cooking. If you're looking for some different ideas, we wanted to share this website, which this is run by the CDC. A website we really like is Fruits and Veggies More Matters. So that's just fruitsandveggiesmorematters.org. And of course, check out our own media sites for different ideas. We've got the Health Check 360 blog, our Facebook page, Twitter page, and our Instagram page. So that basically wraps up our webinar for today. We hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have some different ideas and some things that you are excited to try. Our webinar next month is going to be on the stress response. So we encourage you to check out April webinar's event posting on our Facebook page to complete a quick poll question about your biggest stressors. We'll use that feedback in the April webinar. And then May will be on Listen to Your Gut, how your stomach keeps you healthy. As always, feel free to contact us. We have our information listed here, or you can get in touch with your health coach. So thank you so much for attending. I apologize for running just a couple of minutes over, but Shelby and I will stick around if there are questions.
And if we don't get your questions answered, be sure you can always email us here at the support@healthcheck360.com or healthcoach@healthcheck360.com. We do have some